Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All Things Middle-earth here with a video ranking the Isengard team in 5 categories: their plug-and-play viability, their raid effectiveness, their meta competitiveness, their farm time, and their free-to-play availability. So we're going to look at these 5 categories, rank them on a scale of 1 to 10, and give them a final score just above me to determine how good this Isengard team is. Now, before we get into the actual video, I want to tell you guys we are going to be doing a stream this Friday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, doing this guide or this format for every single team in the game. I've got 12 listed out. They're all going to get their own graphic just like this, and we're going to go through and rank them in these 5 categories. So that stream is linked down below in the description as well as up in the top right of the screen. Make sure you bookmark your calendar, set an alarm, whatever you want to do, because I want to get as many people involved in this community project, if you will. I want to kind of figure out a good ranking for every team at least this point in the game. Right now it's very early, so things are changing a lot. But if you're brand new, you probably want to know, hey, right now, what can I do? Even if it's going to change in a month, what are you going to do for that month before that change happens? So we're going to take this format and apply it to every team in the game in that stream coming up on Friday. So don't miss out on that. But in this video, we're getting a little sneak peek and looking at the Isengard team specifically. Let's go ahead and jump into the video. All right, so starting out with the Isengard team, we're going to be looking at their plug and play viability first, meaning how well do these units that you would be farming up for this team fit into other teams, because that's how this game is going to work as we move forward. We'll have more and more characters, more and more teams, and you might be trying to fit certain pieces together you haven't done yet to achieve certain feats in certain things like raids that are upcoming. Now, obviously, this should go without saying, but these are all going to change as we move forward, as new gear levels are increased, as new characters are introduced. When raids actually come out, it'll be less theory and speculation and more actual fact. This is how this team does. But right now, we're just going to rank based on what we have. So if you are new, you're not wasting time just waiting for the raids to be here to know what to do. You can know with as much, actual fact and knowledge as possible what the best investments are going to be. So their plug and play viability we're going to look at. There's kind of a few things I want to point out here. First of all, Ugluck, I think, is one of the best plug and play characters in the entire game, with 2 abilities that have a disable and a blind. This one, Onslaught, having the blind, which means the enemy has a 100% chance to miss the next attack. And then his next one is a team up attack with Mauer, which is, again, by itself very good. But a disable means they can only use basic attack. So he is probably one of the best with those 2 different Banes that he has available. He's one of the best individual characters for plug and play viability. So that's a very good start for the Isengard team. Now, the other character I want to mention specifically, and we'll do a kind of a overall for the rest of them, is Azhak. Azhak is another very good plug and play character in my opinion. Again, assuming you can find a lead that works well with him, that at least allows him to get some benefit. He is one of the harder hitting characters in the game. And the thing I love about his kit is this Cole the Weak. This allows him to attack the most wounded target and ignore taunt. So if you're attacking someone, let's say you're fighting the new Lord Elrond teams all the time, and I have fought that team with this Isengard team. You're fighting the Lord Elrond team, and Elrond is not able to be targeted because you have Eladin who's provoking, but you just got one more stack of unbreakable left. Or maybe you've got all the other stacks down and he just needs one more hit. Azhak here can bypass any taunts or provokes and just go for the kill, and this thing hits extremely hard. At level 4 right now, it is 310% damage, and that's going to go up 110% more for a total of 420% damage on one of the higher attack static characters in the game. So that alone, to me, is a fantastic reason that he's an incredible plug and play character who really adds a unique option to any team he's added into. Now, overall, with the other characters, Mauer does have some synergy with Ugluck, so he doesn't have maybe his own amazing plug and play, but he's actually one of the harder hitting characters in the game as well. So anybody that's high damage, in my opinion, could be added to any teams. The fact that he's high damage and pairs with Ugluck gives him some points. Morza, probably not as much, and then Dunard does have a heal, so I think having a heal by itself makes him pretty relevant. So overall, again, this is something we'll probably revisit in the stream, so make sure you're ready for that to add your thoughts. But overall, I'm going to give the plug and play viability of the Isengard team as a whole a 7 out of 10. Again, leaning more on the 3 on the right here as I think being more plug and play, and I think the other ones maybe not quite as much, but I think out of the whole team, their whole score on plug and play viability is going to be a 7. All right, so we get the 7 plugged in there, and the next category is their raid effectiveness. So raids are not in the game. If you haven't seen, I'll link it up in the top right. We have a video that just went out today as of this being filmed, actually, and the raids are coming out July 26th. So once raids are actually out, we will have an accurate idea of what teams actually do well in the raids. So for now, the raid categories are going to be speculated, and once raids are out, we will do a more, hey, a more accurate, we've actually seen these teams do well, or these teams don't do well, what have you. So for now, I'm just going to give them a 5 as a rank in the raid category. They might do better than that. They might do worse. I do think being a team that has a lot of heals, they actually have potential to be a very good raid team. And if there are single target enemies like cave trolls or balrogs, where AoEs are less important, they could really do well with the constant heals from a Glux lead. But to be honest, I think they could be higher than a 5, but I don't feel right giving them too much higher than that without really having access to raids. So everyone's score could definitely go up or down once we have raids. But just for this video, we're going to give them a 5. Again, in the live stream, if we decide that they should be higher or lower, we'll do that. But we're going to give it a 5 right now. Now, meta competitiveness is next, and that is how well they compete in the meta, or if they are kind of the current meta in the game. Now, depending on when you're watching this, the current meta right now, in my opinion, is the Lord Elrond Legendary Elven team. Although there are still a lot of mix and match teams that have been geared up from the beginning of the game until now that are still doing very well. Again, right now, gear levels is king over anything, any actual meta or team synergy. So the question we have to answer is, how well does the Isengard team match up with the armies we are seeing, or the team compositions we are seeing? And I think they do relatively well. I don't think they're like destroying teams, but I think their consistent heal helps with a lot of the AoEs. Obviously, if there's too many, they can't handle it, but they can take a couple AoEs, and then after they all take a turn and all apply a Bane, heal up a lot of the health they lost. They do really well against the general AoE issue. And then for a team like Lord Elrond, who you really need to focus down, Elrond himself specifically, a team that has several high damage characters, several Banes they're putting out, all that kind of stuff, I think they have a really good shot, and I've had some good success with them against Elrond teams that are around similar power. They're not punching up a crazy amount, but they do get it done for me. So I'm going to give them, in terms of meta competitiveness, I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. Next, we're going to look at the farm time needed to unlock and use the Isengard team, and again, star them up so they are more effective. All of these characters are going to be hard node farms, which I think is a relatively good thing. Again, hard nodes do take a long time, but I don't think it's quite as long as like buying them from a supply store. So while they're not the most quickly farmed like from a guild store, they are relatively quick, and you do start the game with Ugluk, Mauer, and Dunar, so you get a little bit of a head start with them as an evil team. So we're kind of going with the 7th theme. Again, this could be debated, so we'll see once we get into the stream, but I think I'm going to give them a 7 in terms of their farm time as well. Again, 10 would be the team that is the fastest to farm. If there was an actual team that was all farmable in the guild with guild energy, that's the fastest farm in the game with guild currency. So to me, they're not the fastest one, but I don't think they're the slowest by any means. They are hard farms, but I think starting with them and some of them being available very early makes a big deal. Now, Azhak's a little bit later, the node you unlock for him, but everyone else is relatively early, so you don't have to go through tons and tons of missions to even get to them. You start the game, you have access, and you can start farming them. So they're going to get a 7 out of 10 for me on their farm time. Now, the last category is their free-to-play availability, and in my opinion, the Isengard team is the best free-to-play team in the game, because you start with them, and none of them are marquee characters. None of them use the premium crystals to unlock, like the Troll Brute you might be using. Again, the Elven Lord Elrond team is, in my opinion, the most pay-to-win team in the game, because they have 2 marquee characters in the main lineup for that. 3 if you're using Legolas. So it's the most expensive to run the kind of optimal Elven team. There are no marquees. There are no premium characters. They're all just farmable, most of them early. So I'm going to give them a 10 in the category of their free-to-play effectiveness. So if we add all of those numbers up here, you're going to see a final score of 36 out of 50. Now, what we're going to do with this when we do our live stream, again, this might adjust based on if people have some more feedback on it, but this is kind of more for demonstration's sake. But I think this is relatively accurate for this team. Now, again, raids could go up or down, and that could bring this team into the 40s. It could also bring them down closer to the actual 30 mark. So this is kind of where I'm going to start them. And what we'll do is we'll take a tier list. We'll go through, and the S tier, or Balrog tier, as we call it on this channel, the very top tier, are going to be those closest to that 50 score teams that really mark every single one of these categories. Now, if no one's close to 50, we'll just go with whatever the top is. That's going to be the best like S tier team in the game. And those that are down in the D tier or dustbin will be ones that have very low scores, that are, not very plug and play viable, not raid viable, not competitive, long time to farm, or like premium characters, or being pay to win in terms of like how you obtain them, needing to spend money on them. So again, hopefully you guys like this graphic. This will be linked down below if you want to use this for future reference. But we'll be going through and doing one of these for every single team in the game. We'll have a nice little background for each of them with their team members on there, their name, and their own score. And then we'll rank them on the tier list accordingly. So please make sure to join us for that stream, which is coming up on Friday. Again, Friday at 12 p.m. CST. I'd love to have as many voices on stream as possible to make sure that this is as accurate as possible. Now, again, obviously, things will change as the game progresses, but that doesn't mean people are going to stop playing or not play the game until the game progresses to a state that the early game or whatever isn't changing. So I want to get some information out, and there are tier lists out there, or there is a major tier list out there, but it just looks at individual characters. And I know this type of game in the long term is going to become more about the teams you use and synergy you have with those teams. So I want to kind of start the groundwork for that in a kind of guide like this. So let me know what you think of the Isengard team, and if you agree with the numbers here, or if I got them way off, and what team you think is going to take the highest score on our tier list. But that'll do it for this one, and I'll see you all in a future video.